Hi guys, welcome to another week of JAG Reviews. This week we will be reviewing episode 20 from the first season called The Prisoner. The opening scene actually is quite disturbing in terms of, as far as JAG goes. I found it the hardest scene to watch in the entire, first season. It's a scene where the Chinese officer is trying to get information from Harm, who is a prisoner with the Chinese government. He's been captured, and she's trying to, get in some information out of him. So she uses torture to get it out of him. And just a warning: there's some sensitive and graphic subject matter that I'm about to show you. So the Chinese officer turns on some bright lights, and you can only imagine, how painful that is for Harm. How his body is just, screaming for some eye protection or sunglasses, and it's incredibly hard on him. But what the officer doesn't understand is that he's a Marine, turned JAG officer, and he's not going to talk. He won't crumble like a cake. So I conducted some research on torture techniques, and I discovered that the bright lights technique was actually, it's a relatively new one. I read up on a case about a CIA agent using it on a suspected terrorist in 2012. This JAG episode aired May 8th, 1996, 16 years before that case. I don't know, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, but, it's in all likelihood, they stole the technique from the show. Another thing to note about this episode was the character or the antagonist of the Secretary General at the Hong Kong, the American Embassy in Hong Kong. He was a real, dandy, bureaucratic, pencil-pushing, Washington guy who just essentially throws up the political pylons, when the officers are trying to find Harm. He asks if it's another JAG game, totally belittling, the job that they do, and they perform for the American government. One thing to note is great how the writers of the show, they want you to form a specific opinion about him. So you notice that he's actually drinking tea in the episode. If they wanted us to like him, perhaps they would have had him, drinking a Coors Banquet, you softy. Finally, in the climax of the episode, Harm is being taken from the Chinese border across to safety at the Hong Kong border. And the officer who has been torturing him doesn't like that. She's not ready to give him up. She wants information. So what she does is she takes an AK-47 and she starts shooting him. And a barrage of bullets are heading Harm's way, and Harm instinctually, quickly, reacts and hides for cover in the bushes. From my basic military training, they've taught me that, when you're in danger, hide behind a solid structure. And Harm really, really advocates and shows that off by hiding behind the dense shrubbery, which saved his life. In terms of a patriotism of the week, I don't really have one, because the entire episode to me was one big epitome of being a patriot. Harm's struggle and his victory, for his own country was a lot like our founding fathers' struggle, to, essentially make the country the way it is today. So that's my episode. Again, guys, thank you as always for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be doing some contests pretty soon, so stay tuned on Twitter and retweet. Okay, guys, thanks very much. Signing off.